What is up, everybody? Welcome into A to Z Sports Philly. Got something a little bit different for you today. We are on Friday morning, the day after the Eagles select Quinyon Mitchell at number 22 overall. And I felt a better way to go ahead and dive in deeper was to bring in somebody who knows everything about every draft prospect, one of the experts who probably watches a lot more college and knows a lot more of the prospects than I do. So we brought in James Foster of A to Z Sports Film Room. James, welcome in. How are you feeling after last night?
Feeling great, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. So let's just jump right into it. The Eagles draft Quinyon Mitchell. This was a guy on all mock drafts. People had him going around 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in that range. And he ends up falling. It was a record-breaking draft last night. 14 guys in a row on the offensive side come off the board, and you get to pick 22. And if you're the Eagles, it's a dream come true. You have Quinyon Mitchell, you have Terry and Arnold, both guys that you wanted. And obviously the rumors were that the Eagles wanted a corner, but if it was up to you, do you think the Eagles made the right choice? Is that who you would have gone with?
Yeah, I think Quinyon Mitchell would have been a lot higher than 22nd on the Eagles board. That's a player team combo that I think done in every single mock draft, just because I love the fit so much. I always felt it was a little bit unrealistic because it seemed like Mitchell was going to go higher than 22. But yeah, I mean, I've been on this fit from the beginning. I remember watching Quinyon Mitchell at the Senior Bowl, and I texted an Eagles friend of mine, and I was like, Quinyon needs to be an Eagle, just because his skill set matches up so perfectly with what they want to do defensively. He's at his best in off coverage, where he can read the quarterback, make explosive breaks on the ball, and hopefully result in a lot of turnover opportunities. And I think that's a perfect fit for the Eagles. So I love how everything meshes together.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the Eagles haven't drafted a corner in 22 years. And knowing Howie Roseman, his gut, his philosophy has always been, okay, build in the trenches. Even if it's 2, 3, 4 years out, go ahead and build for when your guys retire, like a Jason Kelsey. So everybody in the back of their mind still thought, all right, they could go offensive lineman here. But I do think the trajectory of the draft kind of shifted it. And when you're sitting there and you have both of the corners available, you don't have to give up assets to move up. You get your guy. Now, I will say I'm a bit surprised that they chose him over a guy like Terry and Arnold, not because, he's not better, but just because Howie loves the big school guys. In recent years, he's adapted. He's been burnt a few times. I thought he was going with the Bama guy, but I'm not mad at it at all. Do you think Terry and Arnold also, would have been a pretty good pick at number 22? He only went a few slots later, but...
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked either pick for sure. I think, you got to give props to Howie for having his general philosophy for how to attack different positions, but being able to switch up from that when there's a clear need. And then also just the way that the board fell with the run on tackles and quarterbacks and some of the defensive players falling. I expected that Arnold would have been high for them as well. I prefer Quinyon Mitchell just because he has that deep recovery speed. There are some times on tape that Terry and Arnold will lose a couple steps down the field. That's not really something that you have to worry about with Quinyon Mitchell. So I think like to run a 4.33 and have that be something that actually shows up on tape, do that at 6 foot, 195 pounds. I think, he's got the most natural talent of any cornerback in this class. And he's already like pretty advanced from a technique and a play recognition standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at Mitchell, obviously he's got the size, the speed, the strength. You just mentioned a few other things. Like he has everything. And I feel like in this draft, it was Mitchell and Arnold and then the rest. But I feel like the one knock on Mitchell that everybody kept trying to point out is, oh, well, he played at a smaller school. Oh, he didn't get to face some of the best receivers. So in your analysis and research, what is your takeaway on that opinion that's floating out there about maybe he didn't get to see the best competition and now you're jumping up, with the big boys?
It's definitely valid. Level of competition is a key thing that you've got to take into account when it comes to evaluating players. And heading into the Senior Bowl, like I remember I did a video of players with the biggest questions heading into the Senior Bowl, and Quinyon Mitchell was number one because not only did he play a weak level of competition, but he was rarely in press coverage. 8.7% of his snaps over the last 2 years have been in press. So he's lining up like 10 yards off the ball and just breaking on underneath routes on his college tape, which is great. And I think, like I said, it can translate to the Eagles defense, but you still want to see that diversity of skill set. And what answered a lot of questions for me was how he looked at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was clearly the best defensive player on the field there. This is someone that didn't have to go to the Senior Bowl, still probably would have been a first round pick, but he chooses to go and compete and, holds his own against the best receiver competition that he's ever faced in his life. He's really just aced every step of the pre-draft process between having so much success at the Senior Bowl, running the 4.33, done a lot to help his stock for sure.
And what would you make in terms of like his attitude and his mentality? Because I know there's a lot of guys in this mix. There's a lot of players. I feel like, especially in recent years, like it's been important to look at, how's the character of this guy? Like, I saw a few interviews and pre-draft clips, and he seemed very grateful just for the opportunity. Like he talked highly of the Eagles. He said he would love, to play for a well-founded organization, things like that. Is there any knocks like in character or just anything else that you've come across that could be a warning sign at all?
So, you can never know for sure without getting like an in-depth one-on-one interview with the person, but everything that you can kind of read from the tea leaves with Quinyon Mitchell is just overwhelmingly positive. The first thing that I kind of have some firsthand experience with is how he carried himself at the Senior Bowl. I remember, they're doing the one-on-one receiver corner drills, and they're kind of like, they're just going one after the other. One of the coaches, I think it was Mike Tomlin, said to Quinyon, like, Roman Wilson is the best receiver here. You need to be lined up with him every time y'all are together. And like he rose to the challenge, went to the front of the line to compete against him. My guy, Damian Parsons, he emailed or interviewed Quinyon Mitchell and said like just his mentality and like seriousness, like he came there to put in work and did just that. And then the other thing that I've heard, it came out yesterday, Nick Saban said that he like admitted to tampering live on air basically, and said that he had tried to get Quinyon Mitchell to enter the transfer portal, but he had that loyalty to Toledo and wanted to finish what he started and everything, and stayed there for his entire career. So, never really know for sure, but all the indications with Quinyon Mitchell are positive.
It's good, and hopefully keeps that loyalty here in Philadelphia and becomes a long-term corner. Do you think he's a number one, day one corner? Do you think he could start from day one? I mean, obviously the Eagles have a lot of questions about James Bradberry and whether he'll be here in a couple months, and had a really down year after a really successful one. Is Quinyon ready to step in those shoes?
I would expect him to be. Yeah, I think Quinyon, Terry Arnold, Nate Wiggins, my three top corners in this class are all ready to start day one. It'll definitely be an adjustment for him in terms of the jump in level of competition. But he's got all the natural talent in the world, and like I said, still pretty advanced from a technical standpoint for a rookie.
I hope he can be that. He had, I think, 18 passes defended last year, and I think he set the record at Toledo. So incredible player, incredible athlete, very explosive. I cannot believe that the Eagles got him at 22. The Eagles have been very successful in these past couple drafts, and they have a couple picks on day two. Any early insight on where you think the Eagles could go? I mean, obviously everybody wants a linebacker. Eagles don't seem to value that in the draft, but maybe a couple guys there. Maybe they could package their picks and move up. What if they traded up and got like Cooper DeJean or someone like that? I wouldn't put it past Howie Roseman.
Hey, doubling up at defensive back with Cooper DeJean, I would be a big fan of that strategy, honestly. I also think targeting a player like Edrin Cooper or Junior Colson on day two at linebacker, Edrin Cooper out of Texas A&M, Junior Colson out of Michigan. Those would probably be my two favorite linebacker fits for the Eagles. If they wanted to continue to stack up at defensive backs, you mentioned Cooper DeJean. I think that Ennis Rakestraw out of Missouri, Max Melton out of Rutgers, and potentially Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Bama could be some good options.
All right, man. Well, I guess we'll wait and see. Big couple days coming here in the draft, and always, a lot of hidden gems, that come later in the draft. It's never just day one. I know that's the big highlight, the big showcase, but man, there's a lot of players that come off the board. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But James, once again, thank you for coming on the show. Please let the people know where they can find you and all your coverage.
Yeah, subscribe on YouTube to A to Z Sports Film Room, and you can find me on Twitter at No Flags Film.
Awesome, man. And if you guys are tapped in, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe here. A to Z Philly. We'll have all the draft breakdown and coverage. That being said, appreciate you guys so much, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.